Welcome back, all y'all, to the truth. Where in the truth, we try to find the truth on teams, coaches, schemes, philosophies, refs, what happens in games, why do things happen this certain way, who are frauds in quotation and who are not, who are contenders. Oh me, oh my, oh wow. We learned some interesting information in week 0. Um, which was kind of surprising. Well, I guess let's start with the surprising one, and we'll talk about kind of how I felt. A little surprised by some of the scores, but kind of how I felt on the rest of the games. Um, let's talk about this Florida State versus Georgia Tech. DJ DJU, quarterback for Florida State, was interesting. Their offense was interesting in itself. I'm just gonna kind of take you through my thought process and just go from there. First drive, thinking, okay, hey, you're shooting off the run game, you're making big plays, you're scoring. All right, you go for the 2. All right, good job. All right, this is y'all have an opportunity to go make some things happen and establish why you're number 10, and then your defense gives up big plays and gives up a touchdown. I'm like, okay, first drive, let's see what happens with Florida State, or can Georgia Tech make this interesting? Um, you know, after that first half, I've really rethought who Florida State was. For those of you who didn't watch, Florida State struggled to push the ball down the field. And it's not just fade balls. It's over the middle too. The deep area in general was a struggle for them. They had opportunities. They had opportunities to hit in the intermediate level over the middle, and they didn't take them. They either missed or did not work out. And that's kind of concerning. I'll still be hesitant on it. It's still week 0. I'm not going to overreact. Teams can change, teams can get better. But what I will say is, in the first half, they didn't even attempt it, which was kind of concerning. They did not throw the deep ball. It was more of, hey, let's run the football, spread it out, let's throw the screen game. I mean, and they just kept at it and kept at it and kept at it and kept at it. Which in itself, they did technically score 14 points. But so did Georgia Tech. And Georgia Tech, I feel like, played a more balanced scheme of kind of getting the intermediate, getting the short. They did try to attempt a couple deep balls, didn't really hit on them, but hey, they hit on everything else. And oh my gosh, that efficient run game, I feel like started with the line. One of the things I realized in that first half is we kind of felt, oh, yeah, the 2 guys who were really good on the defensive line who went in the first and second round in the draft. Yeah, you kind of miss those guys. Having Braden Frisk at that 3 tech, having a stellar edge or outside linebacker in this case, or however you want to call it. You really felt that, oh, dang, they're running the ball really efficiently. And they did it last year too. Don't get me wrong, Georgia Tech did it last year as well. But you feel like a top 10 team should be able to stop this. Now, look, in all honesty, could they possibly be the LSU? Or similar to how LSU is last season? And that's what I was thinking is like, could this be an LSU type season where it's like, hey, you kind of mess up a little, but hey, you're still competitive, you're still this? I don't know. Because I don't know how to feel about these receivers. You bring in a lot of guys who you kind of look at and go, sure, they're not Keon Coleman and everybody else. But I mean, you have a guy who returns, you got a good player from Alabama, and then you got a depth piece from LSU. You kind of work on seeing what you can turn into. You have talent, like it's there. They just, I feel like they didn't either trust their offensive line, their quarterback, or their receivers, or maybe multiple. They did not trust the pass game. That's what scared me in the first half. Is they just didn't trust them, and I really don't know how to feel about that. Um, I guess getting into the second half, it was kind of scoreless. They're kind of going blows. They're gaining a little bit of yards. Maybe they were losing a little bit of yards, and they're punting. The defense took a huge step up in the third quarter on both sides, and then the fourth quarter happened. Um, if I'm not wrong, Georgia Tech scored, and then Florida State responded with a little bit of time left. With some time left, I think a couple minutes. You really have to say, look, they've been running the football all game really well. We got to stop the run. And they couldn't. Haynes, the running back, and Haynes, the quarterback, dominated the run game. It's just that. Um, it was impressive. It was physical. And I feel like that was really the key. On the offensive line to the secondary level, they played a physical football game. And Florida State just bent down. They took a knee. And they got smoked. Look, it's great if you can stop the pass, but if you can't stop the run, that's even worse. You got to be able to stop the run. Um, Florida DJ Uyulele, how good is he really? Did he get some overhype by Oregon State? Did people hype him up too much? We'll see. But I'm interested to see how, and if we have time, we'll talk about it. I'm interested to see how Florida State will fall and how Georgia Tech will rise, especially because Florida State's they were projected number 10 in the nation. It's going to be interesting. I'm not surprised by New Mexico versus Mountain State. I did hear murmurs of New Mexico not being as good this year. People in and out and stuff like that. But I'm not surprised. Oh, excuse me. It's kind of early for me. You just didn't play defense in the fourth quarter, and that's kind of your detriment. You didn't play sound football and good defense in the fourth quarter. Moving on to SMU versus Nevada. Thought SMU was going to win. Surprised by the margin, though. I thought SMU was going to have a handier win, but sloppy football. It's week 0. I'm not terribly surprised. Hawaii versus Delaware State kind of how I felt. Hawaii is just, they're tough. They're a tough team to play. They're sound. And they're going to, look, they're going to be a physical team. But they're a good team. It's going to be interesting to see how they play out throughout the season and what entails for them. Since we do have a little bit of time, what I will do is go to the standings. And I know this hasn't been released. All Conference 2020. Is it standings? Am I being dumb? I feel like I'm being dumb. feel like I am being dumb. Schedule, no. Yes, rankings. My bad. I apologize. Rankings to the polls. As you can see, this hasn't been updated, and I will update you on my reaction to it. Oh, okay. Come on now. Okay. There we go. And I will update you my reaction to it. But I want to throw. Okay, what is this? Yeah, a little irritating now. I want to throw some ideas on where we feel like Florida State is, and go away. Add. Where? How far do we think Florida State falls? Because they're out of the top 15. Okay, what is going on? I hope that was the last of it. They're out of the top 15, I think for sure. I don't think losing a game like that with the inability to throw the deep ball and literally just basically running the football, running screen passes, and then whenever you're deep, you hit an intermediate route or something like along those lines when they're not rushing. Another thing I didn't mention about Florida State is when they rush the passer with more than four, buddy, that offense did not work. Where do you put a team like this? You know, how far do they fall? Do I think Florida State could beat Arizona? Probably. NC State? Probably. Do I think they can beat Texas A&M? That's why I kind of throw the fiddle in. If I'm gonna be all honest, I think Florida State kind of bumps down to the 20s. Maybe maybe that 17 to 25 range is where I think Florida State bumps down to. I wouldn't be surprised if they bumped out of the top 25. Um, it's kind of interesting to see when we scroll up. Sorry. It's interesting to see because now that means, okay, Missouri, Utah, LSU, you know, at least from 17 up, I'll move up, and that Florida State moves down. And that's if Florida State doesn't get knocked out. If Florida State gets knocked out, I think Georgia Tech probably hops in the top 25 at 20-ish range, you know. Um, we'll see, but it's going to be interesting because what happens is, okay, now LSU is is in the conversation, like, or Utah is now in the conversation for the playoffs now. Just by Florida State losing, they're like now we're thinking, okay, can Utah sneak into the playoffs? Now, if they don't win their conference, can somehow they sneak into the playoffs and still go? Utah's going to be a tough team. They're going to play some sound football. So how's that going to work? It's going to be interesting to see how things play out. What also happens is see a team like a G5 team, like maybe Tulane, SMU, maybe they sneak in there. Okay, do they get that 12th spot now? Do they just have to maintain that seed, and can they sneak in the playoffs? It mixes things up. It adds a lot of difference because of a top 10, mainly a top 10 team losing. How much does that bump Georgia Tech up? Are we underrating Georgia Tech? You know, eh, there's so many things that we just have to kind of wait and see. It's going to be interesting to see how the committee reacts to this one. I know this was a shorter video, but I really did feel like it impacts so much. And it's going to be interesting because 9 through 1 aren't affected. You know, um, it might change how they react to a win. The committee reacts to a win or loss whenever teams play Florida State. But 9 and 1 really aren't affected ranking wise right now. Maybe later. Other than that, thank you all for watching. And please, oh please comment. Let me know, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on Florida State? What are your thoughts on some of the players? What are your thoughts on Georgia Tech? Some of the players. What are your thoughts about the teams I really didn't talk about, but I kind of briefly went over. What are your thoughts about how it affects the polls? Let me know. Thank you all for watching, and I will talk to y'all next time.